Thank you so much, colleagues. Good day to countrymen and women. Allow me to recognize my older brother, Honorable Stephen Kampiongo, MP for Shwangandu. So today, my honorable brother and I would like to address the nation through the media. I just want for me to address two issues, just two issues, and these are related to democratic developments in our country, but I also want to comment in my second issue on developments within the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Now, before I do that, I want to caution our people, the Zambian people. You see, when you have a leadership that just plays politics year in, year out, you have a situation where you may forget about important things. There are so many outstanding issues that the UPND government owe explanations to the Zambian people, and people are bound to forget about them. Because all UPND is doing is drawing us into democracy issues, drawing us into elections issues, and so on. You have a duty as UPND to tell the nation how far you have gone on answering the many questions that we have been raising as the opposition, civil society organizations, and so on. You owe us responses on the sewage light, which was stolen from the police in Central Province. You owe us responses on lithium. You owe us responses on your illegal cancellation of hunting concessions. You owe us responses on the illegal audits. You have to respond on the allegations of corruption in the fertilizer procurement at the Ministry of Agriculture, but also its poor distribution leading to people getting medals. You owe the Zambian people responses in all of these things. Do not think that the Zambian people are going to forget about how you have exhausted the Black Mountain without accountability. UPND, you cannot exhaust the Black Mountain in the manner you have exhausted it without accountability to the people of Copperbelt Province. You owe the Zambian people explanations on how you have handled Seseli in Chingola. You owe us an explanation in terms of how you handled the so-called illegal gold miners. So we are not going to forget. But these are issues that relate to the economy of our nation. You also owe us an explanation on how you have resolved issues surrounding the Roman Catholic Church. You cannot call a bishop, an archbishop, as a Lucifer and think we can just forget about it like that. You have to explain to us how you have resolved the issue of an archbishop being called to a law enforcement agency, embarrassing the church in that fashion. And you think we as a Zambian people are just going to forget about it. We will not forget about these matters. If you think that Zambians will, I can tell you now that the Zambian people won't forget about these matters. How you treated Sundays immobilizes worshippers to worship at OIDC. You send the UPND police to go and disrupt an all-night worship without regard to how your people were going to go back to their homes. You owe us explanations. You have to tell us why a priest in Ndola was summoned to police simply for delivering a homily, for preaching to his people. We are in big problems. Let me just tell you that while you want our attention to just be focused on elections, on democracy, we still have all of these things at the back of our minds, and we'll keep demanding answers until UPND will deliver the answers as we the Zambian people, want them. Let me come to my first issue, which I intend to discuss today. Issue number one, I want to again speak into the face and into the mind of UPND and tell you that maintaining law and order is important for any nation. There has to be decency in the manner you govern the nation. The moment you tolerate indecency, the moment you tolerate lawlessness, that lawlessness is bound to come in your own backyard. Today, as I am speaking, Patrick Tembo Banda has taken over UPND. Now, you may call that lawlessness, but you are in trouble. This is what exactly happened to PF. Mao Sampa took over PF. Today, UPND has handed PF to Chavinga, and we now have all these confusions in PF because of lawlessness, which was condemned by UPND. We have been calling for UPND to come out clean. We asked, why was Mao Sampa's convention covered by heavy presence of police at Mlungushi International Conference Center? Why is Chavinga found where the authorities are and is claiming to be PF president and nobody seems to care? That is lawlessness. Today, we now have a sitting head of state who is governing the nation without a political party. The members of UPND now, or without being a president of a political party which sponsored it, that's what I meant. Now, the members of parliament for UPND now don't even know who their president is because Patrick Tembo has taken over the party. This is lawlessness. This should be handled with care. But the problem is, every court judgment that is delivered forms precedence. It is law. And you have a court judgment against the PF where the court has said these confusions in PF happened when there was no central committee. Therefore, Mao Sampa remains the president of the PF. Now, if that is the case, Patrick Tembo Banda has also taken over UPND when the National Management Committee of UPND had no mandate. So my expectation is that if this case ever went to court, the court will still sustain Patrick Tembo Banda as president of UPND because he has taken it over after the management committee's mandate has expired. This, I can say, has been brought upon UPND by UPND itself. So I expect that the judiciary should dispense proper justice aimed at delivering real justice which can be defended when whatever circumstances actually do, come upon whoever is concerned. Now, I don't know how, UPND is going to go around this issue because you have been taken over by a man who came at the right time when your National Management Committee and all structures had their mandate expired. The same way the court claimed in their judgment that PF had no central committee, therefore Mao Sampa, has been sustained as a legitimate, PF president. I feel sorry for UPND, but I do feel that UPND needs to go through this. UPND needs to feel what it feels for a political party to be ransacked by somebody who the majority may think is not even legit. So let's go. Let's see how this will be sorted out. And mind you, UPND, as you solve this, we will be benchmarking with how the PF issues have been solved. And going by what we have seen with PF, our case in the PF took 3 years, over 3 years, for us to come and get a substantive judgment which has handed the PF back to Mao Sampa. So we expect this case also to take very long, and this may also, impact on the ability of UPND members participating in these elections as UPND. To that effect, I would like to recommend to President Hakainde Hichilema to begin, thinking about the possibility of utilizing a special purpose vehicle. The same way us in the Tonse Alliance are going to deploy the concept of special purpose vehicle. The next issue, and the last one I would like to address, I just want to read. I think a lot of questions have come, from various people talking about, this qualification and disqualification of presidential candidates. So, since we are a constitutional democracy, it may not be working perfectly. I think that we should always refer to what the Constitution says regarding these important matters. I know that many people are saying, no, some laws can be introduced, which laws can disadvantage this person or the other, and so on. I want to state that Article 2 of the Constitution is very clear. It says any law, written or unwritten, which contravenes the provisions of this Constitution is invalid to the extent of that inconsistency. So, if whoever came up with a law, or the Electoral Commission of Zambia came up with a law which contravenes provisions of this Constitution, what you have is a situation that those particular provisions will remain invalid to the extent of inconsistency with the provisions contained in this Constitution. By the way, this is the Constitution that I'm referring to. So Article 100 is, I would like to read for the public, for the comfort of the public, for all of us to become clear that there are conditions constitutionally set for whoever wants to contest as president. And here is what the article says. 1. A person qualifies to be nominated as a candidate for vying for that position. Article 102 says, and I quote, a person is disqualified from being nominated as a candidate for election as president if that person, A, is a public officer, B, has dual citizenship, C, is holding or acting in a constitutional office or other public office, D, is a judge or judicial officer, E, was removed from public office or grounds of gross misconduct in the immediate preceding 5 years. F, has a mental or physical disability that would make the person incapable of performing the executive functions. G, is an undischarged bankrupt. H, is serving a sentence of imprisonment or has in the immediate preceding 5 years served a term of imprisonment of at least 3 years. These are the conditions upon which one can fail to successfully file in elections. I would like to indicate to the Electoral Commission of Zambia that every Zambian should be allowed to tender their nominations if they have interest in running for president. Politicians in this country are found in the council and at the chamber, the national chamber, the National Assembly. So any councillor who wants to run for president should be allowed to do so. Any council chairperson or mayor who wants to run for president should be allowed to do so. Any member of parliament who wants to run for the office of president should be allowed to do so. And everybody who is not a public officer should be allowed to do so. When you provide for whoever wants to run to file in, then you are promoting democracy. You can't start, embarking on processes which are going to eliminate some people for this particular office to have a chance to do so. So the Zambian people will not accept any machinations arising whether from the Electoral Commission of Zambia or from anywhere else to prevent some of us who want to run, and we are either councillors, we are MPs or whatever the case may be. So I wanted to say that the Constitution makes clear provisions, and these provisions must be adhered to. If ECZ decided to incorporate in their amendment provisions that are inconsistent with these particular requirements, we can tell you that they will be declared invalid to the extent of that inconsistency. And because of that, the Zambian people must stop worrying. The Constitution has everybody covered. And since, as I said, we are a constitutional democracy, we are likely going to follow what the Constitution says, unless somebody does not care about, the supremacy of this particular law. I wish to submit.
No, to move it because of the light.
Let me start by thanking my dear brother Hon Kafwaya, who has basically shared with us very serious issues. But maybe just to add a little bit on what he has submitted, we must make it very clear that the UPND are not going to decide who is going to compete with President Hichilema in the general elections, either by using their proxies at the Electoral Commission of Zambia or anywhere else. We shall make sure that the democracy that we have chosen for ourselves determines who contests the position of presidency and other electoral positions. I only have got two issues myself, but before I address my issues, I just wish to convey on behalf of the Tonse Alliance, as chairperson of the Parliamentary Affairs of Tonse, to convey our belated condolences to the family of the young man who was full of life, trying to equip himself for his future, Emmanuel Walia, who drowned in the sewer at the highest learning institution, which is the University of Zambia. It is indeed regrettable that we lost a life in that manner. Mwana okufira mu mafi pesikuru ilikalambe chine. It's a shame ero bonse tatufira okuchita na politicize leriashi lero tufira okuchita okuchita balaba kwata responsibility yakumona okuchita lesukuru ilikalamba. It's so shameful that we can talk about a death in those circumstances. What shocked me today was to hear a student's representative, a president of the post-events of Walia's death. We are all shocked and baffled to see men and women in uniform, a man in uniform basically, because there's an officer who has been captured on a video security, a Zambia National Service officer, who was seen doing tantaming, giving handouts to the students. we still want to probe where that money could have come from and whether it's now government desire to institutionalize contamination in that fashion. Because if it was government money is not spent in the manner that officer was doing. It was extremely shocking, and I was taken aback to hear a student representative justifying that they were being given money to go and buy food. Since when? Since when did the Zambia National Service go to the University of Zambia and hand out money to the students to buy food? So that matter needs to be probed, and the Anti-Corruption Commission must not sit back. They must move in, because corruption committed by people in uniform is still corruption, and it cannot be justified in any way. The first issue I want to deal with is, first of all, to dispel the rumors that were circulating over the weekend about me forming a political party called APP. Of course, this was ignited by a Facebook posting by the social media platform called Causeway. And unfortunately, we all know that this Causeway has got people behind it who are now closer to the powers that be, who should be acting responsibly. Now, the clear position is that over the weekend, Tonse was invited to go and witness the conference, general conference, which was held by the APP party, Advocates for People's Prosperity party, which was having their general conference. And so, acting on behalf of President Brian Muduvire, who is the president of the Tonse Alliance, and the leadership of the Tonse Alliance, I represented Tonse Alliance in that conference. And the message I delivered to the conference was to invite them to join the Tonse Alliance. And I'm glad that President Mwenyamsenge, who is the president of this political party, and his general membership and his leadership accepted the invitation, and they'll be doing the formalities to join the Tonse Alliance. And I want to just assure the Zambian people that as a member of parliament elected to represent the people of Shwangandu, I know the do's and don'ts of a member of parliament. The first thing we do in assuming office of member of parliament is to take oath. And in taking oath, we also make a pledge to defend and protect the supreme document of the nation, which is the Constitution. I know, of course, there are some MPs who might not understand the gravity of that oath that we take in assuming office. I have the privilege to be among the very few members of parliament that came with the Patriotic Front from opposition to form government and battle to opposition. So I'm quite conversant with the do's and don'ts. Assuming it was true that I formed a political party, what that would have entailed was that I would have been in breach of my oath and the Constitution itself. And I want to quote Article 71, Subart 2, G of the Constitution. Article 72, Sub-Article 2 states, and I quote, the office of a member of parliament becomes vacant if the member, having been elected to the National Assembly on a political party, resigns from the political party which sponsored the member for the election to National Assembly. So, what this means is that by me forming a political party, I would have resigned from the party that sponsored me, and I would have ceased to be a member of parliament. And this brings me to a very interesting scenario we would like to see dealt with as we open parliament tomorrow, we resume sittings. By this same constitutional provision, we would like to see what National Assembly is going to do to those members of parliament who were elected to National Assembly on the Patriot Front ticket, but have since defected from the Patriot Front by resigning publicly to join the UPND. Because like my brother was saying, Hon Kafwaya, when you allow lawlessness to take root, you can only expect the worst. The legislature is one of the three arms of government. Under the Constitution, which must uphold the tenets of democracy. And the Constitution is the supreme document, the law of the land. We shall be waiting to see what Parliament is going to do in view of those members who are of Parliament, like I've said, who have publicly crossed the floor by resigning from Patriot Front to join UPND, because as far as the Constitution is concerned, though their seats are now vacant. It's the same thing to the members of Parliament who were elected as independent members. They are equally provided for. And Article 72, Sub-Article 2G, specifically, equally says the member of the office of the member of parliament becomes vacant if the member, having been elected to National Assembly as an independent candidate, joins a political party. So those independent members of parliament who have publicly joined, those independent members of parliament who have publicly joined the UPND, their seats must be now vacant. They must not draw beneficiation from National Assembly with that status. They may think that, by belonging to the ruling party, they can ignore the Constitution with impunity. But they'll be made to account whichever time. So the appropriate thing for them to do is to just ensure that they have decided and they have got no role to play in Parliament going forward. We shall be looking forward to ensure that the Constitution is not violated, because we have so protect and defend this Constitution as by law established. And we seek God to help us in doing that. even as we take off. So we are going to make sure that the right thing is done. And like I said, to my people in Shwangandu, Mukwai, you still have me as a member of parliament. With the other political parties under the Tonse Alliance. And I wish to commend Mr. Peterson Kamba, who had briefly left Tonse Alliance but has since rejoined the Tonse Alliance. So I was with him at this conference, which was held by President Mwanyama Senge and his members. So we are not going to shy away in engaging and attracting fellow members of the opposition in ensuring that we come together to ensure that the level of this kind of lawlessness we are witnessing now is kept and dealt with. Because it would appear the UPND really rejoices lawlessness. And as they say, karma is very alive. Like my colleague has said, we shall wait to see how the courts deal with the drama that is unfolding in the UPND. We shall wait and see. We don't want to rejoice as they were rejoicing, the Judge International, the Mao Sampa, confusion. We want order. We would love to see order. Because destroying PF cannot benefit anyone, but it just creates room for lawlessness to continue, and it's unfortunate what has happened to the ruling party, because the ruling party should be leading by example. And listening to Mr. Longwe, the one you saw appearing on Diamond TV, it's indeed worrisome that a ruling party should be the first one to engage in lawlessness. How to allow office bearers to get their mandate expired, and it's business as usual. So the fear is, if you have got a ruling party that is allowing lawlessness like that, what would stop them to ignore that they are the Supreme Court, as they are doing, the Republican Constitution? Because they might end up extending their stay in office even when their mandate will be expiring on the 13th August. So it's a danger to allow people who can't respect their own rules to be leading the nation. So the issues being raised by those citizens who belong to the UPND must not be ignored, because they have got implications on how we manage the nation. Thank you very much.